Hi everyone, how are you? So today, wow. So today I would like to talk about what happened today in the Senate hearing with Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliff and the CIA director and the National Intel director. And as you all know, hopefully you have watched yesterday's video where I talked about Tulsi Gabbard. And as you all know, I keep emphasizing her, but no one is really talking about her. So yesterday I really made the point, like, where on earth is she, right? Where, like, no one is talking about her. Everyone is talking about Hexet and Ratcliffe, what have you, or JD Vance, but the Tulsi Gabbard was never mentioned. And she has to be mentioned because she is the National Intel Director. So, well, in the hearing today, if you watched the hearing, it was just mind-blowing. And I will, in this video, show you, as you all know, I interpret the body languages and what have you, also the behaviors, but also something very, very interesting happened, and it just literally run into it like 5 minutes ago. It was a Fox News article that I thought it was an article, and there was a video attached to it, and that video was from Laura Ingram. This woman, I never watched this woman, okay? And I found her to be extremely aggressive, and I absolutely share nothing about her, okay? But what I want to show to you today, this person, Laura Ingram, did something, and I watched the video, the interview with Walz, right? With Walz together, the National Security Advisor. I watched a 14-minute interview, and Laura Ingram, I cannot believe that I say that, but as you all know, I am on nobody's side. I just talk the truth and nothing but the truth. Has literally shown a geniusness of journalism, and she did something that nobody in the Senate could do today. She literally squeezed out of Walz, who was, as they would do on Fox News, right? They tried to maneuver into finger pointing and smashing other people and would take responsibility, but she didn't give in. She kept pushing and pushing, and she one by one, literally was fishing out of him, literally, that he takes full responsibility. She did it in such a brilliant way. I mean, I was in shock that I even can say that about her, but she was absolutely crazy. And even when he tried to switch back into but other people, and look at what everybody's focusing on this, but not on the economy and tariffs and what have you. And then she did some kind of like playing into him and then squeeze him back and take him out of it, okay? This was just mind-blowing. I will show you in the second part of this video, but first let's get started of this one, right? So I want to first show to you who were in these meetings, okay? And guess, guys, this Miller, okay? This Miller, I will make videos about him. This Miller, I keep saying this since the first Trump administration, he is always running behind, underneath the radar. This is the guy who runs everything. This, if you believe that the Trump administration is so full blown with the ICE and full-blown, like going into eradication of immigrants, eradication and getting classism, white nationalism. This is the guy. The founder, the lead of these absolute, I mean, anti-gay, anti-immigrants, anti-people of color, anti-everything, just white nationalism. This is the person originating everything and running and leading everything about that. So we need, all of us, push the media to bring him more into the media. We need the mainstream media interview him more, all the time, non-stop. This way, only this way, we can get to the public to see what's really going on behind the scenes. He is the builder of all racism in the first administration and in this administration. He is going full force. He is the engineer of racism, full-blown racism. This is the guy. So push all media, push the mainstream media to get him to be interviewed all the time, non-stop. So because he, as you know, he stutters, he's aggressive, he's shaking, you can see what kind of cuckoo he is. So people need to see that. Push the media further. Push your House representatives, push your Senates so that they can use their contacts, so get him to be interviewed. Okay, so now, who is in the meeting? Who was in the meeting? Now it calls Signal Gate. I cannot believe that we are talking about Signal, because I'm using Signal for 6 years, and I was trying to get people on Signal with really not much success at all. Here we go. Now, hopefully at this point, I do hope that my friends and families and, you know, my family is on Signal, but like, you know, my close relatives and what have you and close friends can be on Signal, so that because I don't use WhatsApp and everyone is on WhatsApp, and I encourage people against WhatsApp since 6 years. So hopefully people can finally be on Signal so that I can communicate, you know. It's just so ridiculous. In any case, so who was on this call? Mike Waltz, okay? This is the dude we were going to talk about with Laura Ingram in the second part of this video in a second. And then Jeffrey Goldberg. This is the editor-in-chief of Atlantic. Peter Hegseth, Marco Rubio, John Ratcliff. Oh wow, he looks so different on this picture. We will talk about him. Tulsi Gabbard, we will talk about her. Susie Willis, and then Stephen Miller, Steve Whitroff. Is this Whitroff? Steve Who is this? Steve Witkoff. I don't know who that is. Yeah, it's interesting because he's also missing in the news article. And of course, JD Vance. Oh my God, look at this team. Guys, our national security is in the hands of these people. Frame these people. Take a screenshot. Look them in their pictures, in their eyes. Our national security that we are sitting safely in our homes on our couch are depending on these people. Think about that. The people who are sending like kids emojis after bombing. Okay? This is just nuts. Okay, so let's talk about body language. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard is one of the people that, let's talk about her, right? She was like this heroine kind of figure in the presidential campaign, and she had this extreme change. She was just suddenly very popular. She had this with Kamala Harris, and she was literally kicked out of the Democratic race, and I guess that's why she's very bitter. I want to figure out, I want to zoom in, I try to zoom in into her necklace, because if she wears suddenly a cross, then it literally proves what I'm thinking, what's happening with her, because she is literally, I don't know if she is under influence of, I don't know, psychic, or if she got a tarot reading, or like, I don't know, this pseudo spiritual psychic readings or whatever, because she is not herself. This woman was praised by not just, I mean, the left, whatever, by real, like, progressive left, like really far left. She was absolutely like kind of like the savior type, this heroine type. And I remember those times during the pandemic, and she was just so praised and so followed, and that's why she got this humongous amount of followers from the really strong progressive, like not progressive, I mean very strong left, okay? And that's why people talk about she's this Russian asset, but she was like nothing to do with the left, I mean the Russian asset, but she was more of this very deep left. That's how she gained so much traction. And then suddenly because she became so bitter, because the Democratic Party, the same what they're doing in Turkey, that they are playing with as I mentioned before in my live where I talked about what's happening in Turkey, where in every Democratic Party, that's the same, where in Germany's Democratic Party, in Turkey's Democratic Party, in the United States Democratic Party, they can never be one voice ever. And this is not just true now. I remember since the 90s, where I was really deep into politics in other countries, I was still saying that then that these the Democratic parties are never be one voice, and that's why they keep losing the elections, because it's just all over the place, and they keep playing games, and they kick out the top candidates. They did this to Bernie Sanders with the Hillary Clinton, literally played games to kick a senator in a very, very disgraceful way. They played a game so that he was literally out of the game. So he retracted his because they just this is what they do in the Democratic Party. And then the same thing happened with Elizabeth Warren, because then he was again the candidate for president, and the same thing, Elizabeth Warren did that to Bernie Sanders. So all the time he was being kicked out and kicked out. So with her, Kamala Harris this time did it then to her. And she, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but she became so bitter. She became so bitter and like beyond bitter. I'm pretty sure from what I can think of who she is, that they did play the very dirty game. And you can tell that they play dirty games, from Hillary Clinton versus Bernie Sanders, and then Elizabeth Warren versus Bernie Sanders, and then her versus Kamala Harris. And so that's when she became so bitter, and then she left the House becoming a House representative. She didn't continue with re-election. So then she had this several years of time, and then she completely disappeared. I mean, I was following like literally what she's doing. I wasn't actively following her, but like I was following because I was very curious her next steps, because she literally disappeared. Few years went by, and then out of the blue she came back in full force, becoming this full-blown Republican, coming onto Fox News. Even at that time when she was the candidate, she started to be going onto Fox News, where then she was talking in a way that it made so much sense, and she talked for the base of the everyday American and to the problems of the Americans. And that's why then she started to gain so much traction from this time from the right side as well. So suddenly she was the being loved from both sides. And that's when really she was praised as the patriot, and think of on both sides though. That's important to note, right? And that's why it is so shocking to me, because my belief was that she had honor and dignity, and she is the patriot of the country and what have you. But what I am seeing, not only when she started to go into being the candidate for a position in the national security, again, as I said in my previous video, I have some ideas why she's going into that path, into the administration of the Trump administration. She has no business into comparing, knowing her, following every single steps she did. And so, since the pandemic, right? So then, but what's happening today, what happened yesterday, and what happened today, what I'm seeing in the Senate hearing, this is something else. This is something else. From her face, we can 100% see, we will get to these people. They know exactly, look at the faces. They know exactly what they did. They knew exactly what they were doing. They know exactly how wrong it was. And these are the faces of guilt, full stop. Tulsi Gabbard, look at the eyebrows. She's like she knows exactly. I believe that she has a hard time swallow what she's doing, but she somehow, maybe really she's trying to, she has a mission in my mind, which I'm not going to tell here, and she's either committed to fulfill that mission, She's thinking long term, that's all what I want to say. And she's committed either to fulfill that mission she has in her mind and her strategy to going into the Trump administration, because for her, that would have been an easy peasy step for her to continue with. Okay, I don't want to go into too deep. Okay, so, and then, or the second thing is either that or like black and white, yeah, either that or this direction, which is she's totally brainwashed and totally, I don't know if she went to a psychic or her totally a brain shift and she's dissociated, and so she takes some, I don't know, some stuff, because this is the face of guilt and she knows exactly how wrong it is. You can see this from her upper eyebrows and upper, her forehead. And the eyebrows, exactly, the eyebrows again for Ratcliff, because he knows he feels, and the reason I think why he is like that is because he has a little bit older age than the others. So I think he's a little bit more, has an understanding, because he lived a little longer in this country to know how the intel, or how the Americans defense is working, okay, and the national security and intel and all that. So he knows exactly what he's doing. She knows exactly what she did. He knows exactly what he did. And lying to the face of Americans. And I loved how one of the Democratic, I don't know if this was him, I don't remember, who said, don't. I think was this one of the presidential candidates, I think from Colorado, I forgot his name. And so he had a heated questioning, and so he also don't question the intelligence of the American people, because they were just like kind of putting under the rag, and no, it's like no, don't ever question the intellect of the American people. Exactly. Some people needs to talk about this more, because what are you talking about? Like, are we dumb? Like, what are you thinking? Like, are we so dumb? Or like, we're seeing everything through your faces says everything. And to lie to the face of the American people that they're just like, oh, there was nothing. And I loved how they literally pressured, for example, him, right? He said, and I loved the guy next to him who was staring at them. He had a beautiful questioning, because he said, the one behind of him who stares at them, and he said, the Democratic senator said, in that report, what they give, the emergency and urgency matters, which turns out when you later read the news, apparently she squeezed accidentally out the reasoning why Trump wants to put tariffs on Canada. And so, and they were talking about fentanyl, and then also they talked about how climate change is not an emergency national security problem. And then Tulsi Gabbard said, no, it's not. We just focus on the emergency. Like, and then they said how in all the administrations so far, including the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, wrote in a report that it is a national security threat, climate change. Why? Because immigrations and wars and food and clean water and all that. It's of course a national security threat, an emergent national security threat, but she didn't put it in the report. And they pressed on that, and she said, "Oh no, it's just we are focusing on the most pressing." And so that was one thing. And so he was pressuring and saying, "Listen, was there something intel in there that needs to be redacted?" They said, nope, wasn't in there. And then she literally kept saying, I refer to the defense, to Hexed. I refer to Hexed. Easy peasy stuff, right? I don't recall. I don't remember. They kept pushing Ratcliff and saying, how can you not remember? Like, you literally wrote, not that I recall, not that I remember, not that I recall, I don't know. You're like, don't play with the intellect of the American people. And so he pressed it like, okay, if there's nothing to be redacted, why don't you publish it then? No question, no answer, nothing. Just she sits there silent, like is like a shock. And then they said, and he kept asking, did you, to Tulsi Gabbard, did you talk on your private, were you outside of the country during this exchange? She confirmed and said yes. And then he said, okay, if it's so, was it on your private phone or was it the government issued phone? She would not answer. And that makes us totally believe that this was her private phone with a private app. And this is the National Intel Director, who she praised herself nonstop, that she's this veteran and she was a National Guard and she's like this warrior, right? And then she was in the House Intel Committee for 6 years, and she was she. This was on her private phone with a private app, and she knows exactly what she did. Look at this face. Look at the face of Tulsi Gabbard. She knows exactly that this was wrong. Look at the face of Ratcliff. They know exactly how wrong it was, yet they lied to the face of the American people. And I loved how Senator Warner kept pushing and literally, and look at them. It just was like as if a father, like this, these father figure would yell to the children, and they're like, oh, where did you go out? Why did you come late home from the party, whatever? And they're like, oh, like this. She literally sits there like a child, these two. Look at their body language. I mean, guys, this is a a sitting or the way of showing confidence in the body language of a national intel director and the CIA director. Like, you got to be kidding me. They're sitting like a little kid coming late from a party when the father is yelling at them. And they know exactly what they did because it's supposed to come at 7 p.m., but it's now 12 a.m. And they know they get house arrest, for example, something like that. This is exactly how they're looking like. Look at this. I mean, I can't. I just can't. This is, I mean, you know that I'm a body language freak and human psychology and behavioral psychology. Look at this. I mean, I absolutely can't stand people with low self-esteem. Like, not that I am judging them, it's just you. What did you turn into? You were the strong. She's an Aries. An Aries never ever would sit like this, because she was presenting the strong, solid. She was standing on her 2 feet. This veteran, just National Guard and whatever, and just this National Intel Committee on the House of Representatives for blah 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 blah. And look at this, she's like this pheno dog who has a tail between the legs. And this vice chairman literally smashed them. Literally. And they couldn't say a word. Okay, they couldn't say a word. They were sitting like this. Unreal. 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 So now quickly let's move to, hi everyone, who's here? How are you? So now let's quickly move to this. I want to talk about Laura Ingram, which I just literally 5 minutes before I went live to run, just because I thought it was an article. Turned out there was a 14-minute video. I want you to watch that video. Not that I mean, watch whatever you want, but this one was particularly interesting. I don't like this woman. She's so full of hatred. She's full of nastiness and fits all together. But in this interview, which she did with Mike Waltz, I want you to watch. I did screenshots on the writing underneath. Step by step how it transforms. Laura Ingram, I couldn't believe it that I'm saying this. She did a genius way of interviewing. She was a genius technique of journalism. And you can see from the writing underneath how it transforms, because she geniusly squeezed out of him what the senators today couldn't do. She transformed him from blaming others, pointing fingers, not taking responsibility, it was nothing burger, and as you can say, the scandal that wasn't, into squeezing out of him, I take full responsibility. Wow. I was mind blown. I want you to watch that 14-minute video, because you can tell step by step how technically she did it. She said something very towards the end, like some weird stuff, which I want to correct here, that no, but maybe that was a tactic, because that way she also squeezed something out of him that I hope people pay attention, because then he literally accidentally spilled how the Trump administration actually is not following the law. And I will come to that in a second. That was surreal. You got to watch this. Okay, so she starts by, it's, as you can tell, like nothing burger, right? And he says, Advisor Waltz reacts to Signalgate. So she starts and asks the question about what's going on. And he's like, yeah. And he starts literally, because when she asks about this question, he literally don't even talk about this at all. He full-blown aggressively went after the journalist Goldberg. And he is a nasty guy. He's a liar. He lied about this. He's this low-level journalist of lying on that, on this, on that, and here and that. And he's a low level of nobody, and went on and on and on about him. And then she says like, yeah, but people said she went, come back. She kept saying, and how did that happen? But in a very tone, not scaring him off, but pressuring, and more, and more. And look at this. It went into, but what about, the signal use? And what about who was it to use? Who was on this call? And did you know? And these. And then he was keep going back into, he was going back into, but no one wants to talk about the tariffs and the whatever economy and under the Trump administration and how we clean up the mess. Nobody wants to talk about the immigrants. Nobody wants to look at how successful we are with the immigrants, and nobody wants to talk about, look at how we bombed them. Nobody could, but we did. And then she comes back again and says, but how did that happen? How, and blah, blah. She talks more into it. And then she didn't give up. She went on and on and on and on in a very gentle way, but firm. I mean, it was just genius. I mean, that was just literally a lecture of journalism. And then he actually then said, you know what? Okay, because he realized she won't give up. And he said, okay, you know what? Oh, then she geniusly said, but so, she was always like this, yeah, okay. So, but what? Then I think it was then an 8 probably did, and he kept saying, no, it wasn't an 8. No, it's I don't know. And he still was in denial, saying, I don't know, it just happened that. Sometimes you do that too, right? And she's like, oh, I never do that. Sometimes when you want to add somebody else, and then you have somebody's phone number and you add that, you probably do. I mean, you do this all too. We all do it. And she's like, I never do that. And then he says, yeah. And she's like, yeah, but how can you even bring someone? I mean, who wanted you to bring in? This is like crazy. Yes, no one asked these questions. She's like, who else did you want to bring in though? But you accidentally bring the journalist in. And he's like, actually, I didn't want anybody, but it just so happened that he comes in. So I want to just like go call in someone else, but this person just like, I don't know how it happened. And she's like, yeah, whom? Like, who did you want else to be in there? Who didn't join? Was there anybody who didn't join? He's like, yeah. And he's like, and she's like, whom? She, oh, I can't tell. Of course, I can't tell. So, and then she said, did that person wasn't in attendance? And he's like, yeah, no, that person didn't attend. So accidentally, somehow, so I don't know how technology works, so I don't know. So we talked with Elon Musk about this. Talk to Elon Musk about what? And he's like, suddenly, this actually just happened, that suddenly, that this phone number entered into that call. No, sir. You sent an invitation. That's how Signal works. You have to send an invitation, and that person has to log in, and has to download the app and then go into that. Or if the person has the app, just joins the group. After invitation, you have to invite. And so then she kept saying, okay, then this was probably an 8 then, because I never call anyone or invite anyone with a different phone number. And she's like, and he's like, no, that wasn't it. And because she kept on and on and on pressing, then he said, okay, you know what? I mean, I take full responsibility. It wasn't aid, it was me. I did it. And that it was. Literally, she squeezed out of him responsibility. Okay, that is now on record, which is awesome. But then, furthermore, then towards the end, she's like, yeah, but then, because he still wants to talk about other stuff. But she kept going back, circling back, and then she said, yeah, but then this means like, this usage of Signal then and other communications. Yeah, and, then she said something like, I see, right, in the past administrations, how things were, communicated, and now probably this is ridiculous, right? And then you probably need to do, don't communicate like on apps or in a writing at all, right? This was like ridiculous, because if you think about it, if she really doesn't know the law, they have to keep record. That's the point. They have to keep record on all intel and all national security stuff so that there can be accountability and people know the intel. I mean, you got to be kidding me. And guess what? Because she's like, yeah, right. And he's like, yeah, he literally fell into it. I don't know if she did this on purpose. I don't think so. But maybe she did. I don't know. But he fell into the trap, and he suddenly said, like, that Donald Trump, President Trump, he doesn't also want us to communicate at all. He wants some more talk. But, it did happen that we had talk on the phone, like, because you had to coordinate and whatever. Wow. Did you see? Do you watch my narcissism videos? Because there I talk about how narcissists, deep pathological narcissists, never ever wants to leave a paper trail. They always call you. They always want to meet you in person or want to talk to you. They never ever will send a text message or a email, because they never want to leave a paper trail. But that's a second time now. They have now on record prove he accidentally spilled out that they are breaking the law on the regular basis, and how many stuff probably was not being recorded whatsoever. That was a brilliant, unreal that I've ever saying this, but here on my channel we talk about the truth and straightforward analysis, and that was a brilliant interview on the record 2 times, admitting stuff that's now on record. Hope people pay attention, and I leave you with that. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this. And so, yeah, watch yesterday's video as well, and I will see you in next video. Don't forget to check out my website, and in the blog it's coming. Several blog posts are coming, and it's already how you can take action with infographics. I put nice infographics there. How you can take action on any legislative advocacy that you're against. How you can actually step by step can take action efficiently, effectively. You can see these infographics on my website, on my blog, the latest blog that I have, and more.